What is up, my brothers and sisters, my agents of respect? It's your boy Trey Johnson back with another episode of the No Disrespect But podcast. Remember, you can listen to us on any streaming device, or if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to please like and subscribe and leave comments. Let me know what you think of the show. And really excited about today's episode. Just really kind of a recap of this past weekend of college football as we get ready for week two of college football coming up, as well as the beginning of the NFL season or NFL regular season. But man, I just got one question. Do you believe now? Do you believe now? And, you know, honestly, if you actually paid attention to last week, you understand, or last weekend, you understand that that quote is coming from none other than Coach Prime, Coach Deion Sanders of the Colorado Buffaloes. And, they coming off a big win, big upset win. I don't care what anybody says. They were 20-point underdogs coming into this game against the national title runner-ups a season ago, playing against the Texas Christian University Horned Frogs, TCU, for those that like the acronyms. And on the road in Fort Worth, it was kind of hot too, to be honest with you. And um, they prevailed. A team that some were saying were the worst roster in all of college football. Vegas had them winning no more than 3 games this season. They've already matched that total. They've matched their season winning total from last year. So if they lose the rest of their games, at the end of the day, they broke even from last year. But I think we all can agree that the Colorado Buffaloes are going to be much better than they were a year ago, mainly due to the turnover in their roster. There's a good bit of their players came from the transfer portal. Coach Prime said, "Look, I'm bringing my luggage, and it's Louis. And guess what? That Louis luggage looked good this past weekend. And one of the main ones was his son, Shedeur Sanders, going for over 500 yards, 5 touchdowns, breaking Colorado records his first game in Power Five at the FBS level, which, anybody that plays will tell you, and Shedeur made sure to say it, hey, it's not really the difference when you get past the names and you don't care about the names, you've already won half the battle. And that's really what it is. We can get, caught up in these names of these programs, but, the guys that, are playing aren't necessarily all of that in a bag of chips. And so, I mean, look, at the end of the day, we got to play. We got to play. And so those guys played. Shedeur, like I said, had a phenomenal game. And honestly, he could have went for over 600, probably had 7 touchdowns if it wasn't for a couple drops. I know he missed a couple throws downfield, but other than that, he looked great. I mean, pocket presence was phenomenal. And I will tell you, man, I love seeing that, especially in a black quarterback, because you understand the narratives around black quarterbacks and their athleticism and always wanting them to run and read option and all that stuff. But it's very rare, or it's lovely to see when you see a quarterback, especially one of color, that's like, look, I can dice you up in the pocket. I can run when I feel like it, but I'm not a one-trick pony. That's not something you got to make me do. And I think that's good. I think that's a testament to what Coach Prime sees in him. Everyone thought it was, oh, nepotism. He's just trying to get his son a shot, especially when he said, my son's the quarterback. Shadeur's the quarterback. That's all it is. And people were like, oh, you got to compete and all that type of stuff. But God comes out and shows out. And speaking of showing out, let's talk about the two-way superstar, Travis Hunter, man, playing defense and offense. Stud as a cornerback, had 3 tackles and a phenomenal interception at the goal line, which was one of those tide-turning plays, if I must say. And TCU, they had some moments where they were driving, and that was a big moment where the quarterback made the right decision. The receiver was open. Travis just made a phenomenal play, undercutting it, making, laying out for that interception. And 11 catches, 119 yards on the offensive end. And whenever the Buffaloes needed a play and Shedeur needed to throw it to somebody on the money, he went to Travis. 3rd and 16 in the fourth quarter. Who does he go to? He goes to Travis Hunter, and the guy goes up and gets it. I don't know if he's a phenomenal wide receiver because he's a great cornerback and knows what the receivers wanting to do. I don't know if he's a great cornerback because he's a phenomenal wide receiver and he's running routes. I think everybody's trying to figure out what he's going to be in the league. And honestly, I just say let's just enjoy it, man. Because honestly, let's not put him in a box. He probably can play both at a high level. Who knows? He might do something that nobody's ever done before. He played over 100 snaps, which is unreal. And will he keep that motor up? Who knows? The Colorado Buffaloes might not necessarily need him to play as many snaps as he did offensively in other games, but he was phenomenal. I will say, man, I haven't really seen that much in my lifetime. I know, everybody will talk about the Bo Jacksons and the Deion Sanders in primes of the world, but to see that and to see that level of him being not only a lockdown corner, but also wide receiver one, if we want to be honest. Because again, every time Colorado needed to make a play, more times than not, they went to number 12. And I want to make sure, because again, everybody was talking about how bad this roster was going to be, and I want to be quite honest. I want you guys to keep that energy. So yes, you might start believing now, but to some degree, you need to kind of have that same energy because this so-called bad roster had three other receivers go for 100 yards. One of those being their running back, Dylan Edwards, who I definitely want to give a shout out to because he scored the go-ahead touchdown. He's probably somewhere still running. He probably made it to Greenville, Texas now the way he was running because they couldn't catch him. I was trying to figure out if they would be able to stop him, and they couldn't. Clutch, 4th and 2. You go to the running back of all players. Like most people don't throw it to the running backs on a money down. They're probably going to try to go to wide receiver. They're going to try to go to tight end. OC dials up a beautiful play to get it to the running back coming out of the backfield. Shador puts it right on him. A lot of times people say don't throw it high to a running back, put it on his numbers. That's exactly what Shador did. Dylan Edwards ran to the house, and then want to make sure I show some love to Xavier Weaver and Jimmy Horn Jr., who were dominating their respective matchups as wide receivers. And I will say this: look, I think if you really paid attention and you didn't let the hate blind you, hate for Coach Prime, hate for Jackson State University, and not showing that program and that university the respect that it deserves, and thinking that a bunch of players that played there would never be good enough to play in the Power Five conference, let alone actually compete and do well. But I think if you actually paid attention to the transfers that Coach Prime was bringing in, to some of the recruits that Coach Prime was bringing in, Dylan Edwards was committed to Notre Dame. If you were actually paying attention, he decided to decommit. He played for Coach Prime growing up. He was like, "Hey, I can't think of a better coach I want to play for," and so he decommits and recommits to the University of Colorado. And he probably had the best day out of anybody, for being honest. And so, but if you really pay attention, you knew at least from an offensive standpoint, they were going to have the skill position guys. Um, I will say the only thing I think might be a hindrance moving forward to a degree is the trenches. And Shador actually pointed that out that, hey, that's the difference. O-line, D-line, and they make decisions a little bit faster than they might at the FCS level. And it kind of showed to a degree. Colorado kind of struggled to run the ball, 34 attempts, 55 yards, and they struggled to stop the run. TCU going over 260 yards rushing. But at the same time, I think that's something that Coach Prime is paying attention to. I think that's something that he and his coaches are going to work on because at the very least, they weren't necessarily missing tackles and things like that. So there weren't really bad habits. It's really just about, pushing back and not necessarily being dominated at the line of scrimmage. And they did enough. When they needed to make deep play, they made deep play. They got pressure at the right time. They stopped the run at the right time. And so I think, as they build out their scheme with the players they have, that's going to get better throughout the season. Also, I think, other players are going to want to play for Coach Prime. Think about it. How many coaches in the NCAA, especially at the FBS level, have a gold jacket in their house? And by gold jacket, for those of y'all that don't know sports, I'm referring to the National Football League Hall of Fame. Well, that's what Coach Prime is, one of the best players to ever play the game of football in the NFL. And so, he is someone that has the credentials. Not that I got people to this level, but I was at that level. I dominated at that level. And if there's anybody who can teach you how to dominate at that level and be a Hall of Famer, it's Coach Prime. And so I think what they did today is just a testament of not just their recruiting, but I think of their work and their preparation. Obviously, it's just week one. It's a long season to go. I think if you ask me right now, and honestly, going into the season, I had them winning 9 games. That includes the bowl win, so 8 regular season wins and a capping it off with a bowl win, finishing the season 9-4. But you know, you never know. It's college football, and they play in one of the most unpredictable conferences there are. You can beat an undefeated USC and then lose to a 8-loss Stanford the next week. That's just how crazy it is over there. And I'm expecting a lot of fireworks in the last year of what we know the Pac-12 to be. But again, man, excited for Coach Prime. Excited for all those young guys, especially those guys that transferred in from HBCUs and kind of show that they belong too. And so I think we gotta let that hate go aside, and it's time to believe. And I want to thank Coach Prime and his Buffaloes because they have established the theme for this episode. Because there are 2 other topics I want to talk about where there's been a lack of belief, both good and bad in a sense. And I want to transition to my Alabama Crimson Tide. Obviously, replacing Heisman winner, arguably the best quarterback the past 2 years in college football, Bryce Young. It's a tall task. And I mean, look, we've been there before. We had to replace Tua. But at the same time, outside of the Iron Bowl performance, I think Mac had kind of, did himself a good service during the bowl win against Michigan to where at least someone like me, I was like, I can see Mac taking over. He's a senior. I think he's going to do well. Obviously, you had Bryce Young, the true freshman, coming in, right? And so people were high on him. But I just kind of believed in Mac Jones that he was going to be the guy that Coach Saban went with, and that he was going to be the guy to help us get to a national championship, which he did. Was also a Heisman finalist in the process and helped us win a national championship, not only get there. And then you go from Mac to 2 years of Bryce, and it was kind of like clockwork. You weren't really concerned with what it was going to be, how that transition process was going to be. Bryce, his first year as a starter, wins the Heisman, gets us to the national championship game. I believe if our 2 starting wide receivers aren't hurt, we're winning that handedly against the Georgia Bulldogs. But shout out to them. You play who you play, and they didn't take us lightly, regardless of who wasn't on the field, and they won. They got them a national championship, and then followed that up again with a second one. But just kind of stick to topic. You had 2 straight years of Bryce. You kind of knew where you were going. You had that continuity. You had that known thing that was going to happen, how the season was going to go, who was going to be playing the most important position. And coming into this year, it was some question marks. Was it going to be Jalen Milroe, redshirt sophomore? Was it going to be Ty Simpson, redshirt freshman? Then we have the spring game. Jalen and Ty are supposed to be the 2 guys battling, and supposedly they didn't show enough. So Coach Saban goes and gets a transfer from Notre Dame, Tyler Buckner, who played for our new offensive coordinator, Tommy Rees. So then it's like, oh snap! Like Tommy Rees going to get his boy. Hey, what's going on with Jalen and Tyler? They're going to be playing, and I would say for me, and because I do watch my college football, Tyler Buckner, he showed some flashes at Notre Dame, was coming off an injury, but, he was very turnover prone. And if you know Coach Saban hates turnovers. One of the reasons why there were a lot of question marks about Jalen Milroe was in his first start last year against Texas A&M. I believe he had 3 fumbles or something, like 3 fumbles and an interception, maybe something like that. So there were some concerns of ball security, like, oh my God, if he doesn't take care of the ball, how's he going to play? But Jalen ended up getting the nod. All 3 of them competed. Jalen ended up getting the nod. Tyler Buckner was QB2, which basically means he usurped Ty Simpson in that process, albeit Coach Saban is still listing Jalen Milroe or Tyler Buckner or Ty Simpson. So there's still a quarterback competition going on. And I think that next week or this upcoming weekend against Texas might solidify one way or the other if Jalen Milroe is going to stay the quarterback. But again, he was announced the starting quarterback leading up to our matchup, home opener against Middle Tennessee State. And so you had some naysayers saying, oh man, like that's not going to last. He can't throw. He can't do this. He can't do that. And I just want to again ask the question, do you believe now? Not saying that Jalen did everything that just solidifies him as the guy. I think it's a growing process. Even Coach Saban has eloquently said it. He doesn't want the guys who are starting week one to think they just got the job locked up and stop working and stop getting better and stop preparing and stop executing the way they're supposed to. But at the same time, man, I think Jalen really did well. Last year coming in versus Texas, last year actually coming in versus Arkansas when Bryce initially got hurt and being able to do what he did. And then against Texas A&M in his first start, of course it's jitters. You're replacing probably the best quarterback in program history. I can see how that's a lot of pressure. And he had a lot of great plays and he had some bad plays. But at the end of the day, he made enough plays for us to win. And that's kind of why I saw in the Middle Tennessee State game. First touchdown, guess what? Messed up snap, botched snap. A quarterback that doesn't have the presence of mind might panic, might, end up kicking the ball or hitting the ball to the defense. That's a turnover. What does Jalen do? He has the presence of mind to pick it up to start with. Then he initially looks to pass. So a guy that people have been saying, oh, he's going to be run first, run first, run first. He picks up the ball on a tricky situation and is immediately looking for a receiver to pass the ball to, rolls out a little bit, nobody's there, he takes off, he runs. It's a 25-yard run. He made that out of nothing. So when I think of a guy like Jalen Milroe, I think he's going to do a lot of magician type plays this year, but I think he's going to make the right plays. He also showed that he could do it in the passing game as well. Started off kind of hitting the short and intermediate. I think really he was trying to get his groove back. Middle Tennessee State are one of the most blitz happy teams also in college football. I want to say they had the number 2, or they were number 2 in turnovers forced last year. So they like to generate a lot of pressure on the quarterback, make them or force them into some mistakes. And Jalen did a good job. No turnovers, no fumbles, none of that. He did a good job of just staying even kill, getting the ball out where it needed to go. A little inaccurate on a couple of throws early, I saw. There was a pass that he was trying to throw to number 11. Kind of missed him. He was wide open, almost had a step on the defender, and he missed him a little bit. And he also had a deep shot to Jacory Brooks, if I'm not mistaken, and kind of missed him, undercut him. So or underthrew him. So if he kind of leads him a little bit more, that's a touchdown. But here's the positive from that. They run the same exact play for Jermaine Burton this time, and he hits him on a dime, So it shows that, hey, he can look, he can process his mistakes, and then make it happen. There were some things that I do want to see better. I do want to see his timing, that clock in his head. There were a couple sacks that I felt like he should have just got out. But again, when your mindset is, I need to be the throwing quarterback. I need to be the throwing quarterback. That's the worst thing you can do as a guy that has God-given athletic ability. Sometimes, look, you don't need the big play. Just go get the 6-7 yards we need to keep the chains moving. And that's kind of what I want Jalen to grow and be comfortable in. Hey, you are an athlete. It is okay to use your legs when you need to use them. But it's also, at the same time, you want to go through your progressions. I understand that. But also having that internal clock in your head. There were a few throws that I felt like he just held the ball on a little bit too long. I think when we play maybe better competition, your University of Texas this weekend, when you play your LSUs of the world, your Auburn of the world, just got to be a little bit quicker to your decision making. And not necessarily saying just process where you're already going with the ball. I know throughout the season, we're going to see how he goes through his progressions. If the first read isn't there, how is he going with second and third? A big testament to that is going to be, how is our offensive line holding up? Are they holding up their end of the bargain? And then Jalen having that state of mind or that instinct that, hey, it's okay to run. Because guess what? When that guy runs, it's not really a 6-7 yard gain. He has the potential to take that 30, 40, 50, 70 yards. Really, he's that athletic. He has that God-given ability. And at the same time, he can throw the ball those distances. Hit Amari Neal Black, I think that's how you pronounce it, on it's kind of like a over route, or like a deep over route, and hit him in stride. He actually took a big hit. So anybody that knows me, what I've always told my Bama quarterbacks, man, sometimes you got to step in there and throw a strike. And he did just that. and hit the tight end on the money, touchdown. And so those are some of the positive things that I'm looking forward to seeing from Jalen Milroe. We know he's going to have that big playability from the passing game and the running game, but also that quick processing, throwing accurate balls. Can we get passes into tight windows? Because as we get to better competition, better defensive backs, better linebackers, better defensive schemes, there are going to be a few tight windows that one he has to fit the ball into, but 1A, he has to have the confidence that he can do that and trust his eyes. And so I was I wasn't surprised, but I was happy at how he came in. Obviously, he had to silence all the doubters. Everybody's like, "Oh, wait till he plays Texas. There's gonna be wait till he plays this school." There's gonna be some people you can never satisfy, right? But at the same time, as long as he's playing well, the team's playing well, he's taking care of the ball, he's moving the offense the way he's supposed to be moving it. Our defense looked phenomenal. They're already starting to generate turnovers, which was something that was a bit of a headache last year, and not being able to truly do. Getting pressure on the quarterback. Secondary is amazing. Linebacking core is rolling into form. But really, man, when I say do you believe, I know everybody's gonna believe in the Tide to a degree and what Coach Saban is going to put together as a team. But if you are an Alabama fan, man, you have to believe in our quarterback, no matter who that is. And right now it's Jalen Milroe. And so as long as he's taking snaps at that top quarterback spot, you have to believe in him. You have to trust in him because guess what? If you don't trust that he's going to do well, what you're saying is you don't trust that Coach Saban, who has been very, very good to the University of Alabama in terms of generating championships, reestablishing the culture or bringing that culture of winning titles back. You're saying you don't trust him. And I think he's done more than enough to earn our trust and to uh, us to expect that he's going to do the best thing for the team. And finally, I kind of want to go. I say it might be a bad thing in terms of do you believe now, and so when I say do you believe now for this one, I am directing that question at head coach of the Clemson Tigers, Coach Dabo Swinney. And for those of you that have paid attention over the past few years, especially around when NIL was really getting the buzz and that was going to happen or it looked like it was happening, Coach Dabo Swinney said that he would retire the day that athletes were able to get paid. Those were his words. He said he would quit. Well, as of yesterday, he is still coaching the Clemson Tigers, and NIL has been a thing for at least the past 2 to 3 years. And so, for starters, he showed that he isn't a man of his word and he's a liar. So, if he had to come and sit on my couch and try to recruit my kid, there's no way in hell I'd send my kid there because I'm not sending my kid to a coach that can't be a person of that word. I was always raised that your word is your bond. So if you're going to make an outlandish statement like that, one, because you truly think that players don't deserve to get paid and don't deserve to make a living off of their name, their image, their likeness, what they're doing, um, how exactly do you think you can get a kid to your campus, to your team, and to play for you? Yeah, you had some good runs pre-NIL with guys like Deshaun Watson, Isaiah Simmons, Trevor Lawrence, DeAndre Hopkins. I can go on of the list of phenomenal talent that has come through Clemson and are making waves in the National Football League. So not to say that Coach Swinney is some terrible coach, right? He's been able to have success, 2 national championships, but at the same time, he didn't adapt to what the NCAA was becoming. And he not only didn't he adapt, he refused to adapt again and make such an outlandish statement like that. But then NIL happens, and then he still refuses to utilize it. He refuses to utilize the transfer portal. When it comes to name, image, and likeness, he said, I'm going to do GNIL. We're going to use God's name, image, and likeness. And look, I'm all for free speech. I'm all for freedom of religion. Um, I'm a Christian myself. But at the same time, and I mean no disrespect, but you're not going to win with God's name, image, and likeness, not in building a football program. And we saw that last night as they got throttled by Duke. And when I say throttled, it's not that they were overmatched by any means. They actually outdid Duke in every metric. They had more passing yards. They had more rushing yards. The big thing that cost them the game was turnovers. They had 3 turnovers to Duke's too. And I believe they had 2 turnovers in the red zone, like within the 10-yard line. So cost you the game. And Duke eventually just started applying the pressure and actually started converting on the mishaps of Clemson. But at the same time, remember days where Clemson was just blowing everybody out. It wasn't hard. These past couple of years, especially post Trevor Lawrence, they've been hard. Clemson has looked human, especially in the ACC. Yeah, they won the ACC championship last year. We get it. But at the same time, they looked rather human, rather beatable, rather ordinary, which is something we would have never said during the Deshaun Watson years, during the Trevor Lawrence years. We would never say they looked ordinary. They looked extraordinary. Um, and being able to compete for titles and win 2 of them with 2 of the best players, best quarterbacks in college football history. So, you know, Dabo, do you truly believe now? Do you truly believe that there is a new era in college football? And if you want to win, if you want to stay in the elite, in the top echelon of the NCAA, of football, you have to conform to this manner of recruiting. I'm not saying buying players, but are you putting a system together where a player can come through your program, and if they want to be able to sign autographs, they want to be able to do commercials, they can do that through your program. Are you presenting those opportunities to them? Are you open to presenting those opportunities to them? Because that's really the difference. You're not even open. And look, you're not the only coach that has said this over time. I mean, even Coach Saban had his and still has his gripes when it comes to name, image, and likeness, when it comes to the transfer portal. But at the same time, he still utilizes those because he understands that to stay on top, I still got to utilize it. I may not like it, but I have to do it. And so you're trying to be this martyr of what used to be. Well, you're used to be the Clemson head football coach. That's what's going to end up happening because they're going to want to bring somebody in that's going to revolutionize the landscape of Clemson football and bring it back to what it used to be um, under your early tutelage. So, what's it going to be, Dabo? Are you going to continue trying to create teams in God's name, image, and likeness, or will you get a collective together and be a normal human being? You know, so it is what it is, man. But I'm telling y'all right now, so excited for this college football season. Just week 1, now we're going in week 2. There's going to be a lot of great matchups throughout the season. I'm looking forward to watching all of them. Obviously, I'm looking forward to watching my Alabama Crimson Tide run at another national championship. Also going to be looking at Coach Prime in Colorado and seeing, hey, Shador, I had you coming out next year. The hell, you keep playing like you played this past weekend, you might be going to the pros earlier than we've all thought you might be doing. And so looking at them, obviously looking at Florida State coming off a big win yesterday versus LSU. So what does that mean for their program, especially when you're starting to see Clemson maybe on a decline? I still think Clemson is the king of that hill. And so will Florida State, will this be the year that they knock them off? They definitely have the talent. Obviously, you have North Carolina and Drake May, what they might be able to do. I'm excited for the SEC East and see if somebody can step to Georgia or Georgia continue to run away with it. Big Ten, I'm always excited to watch them, what's going on with Ohio State and their quarterback situation. University of Michigan, Penn State, can they kind of get over the hump, maybe get into the playoff under Coach Franklin for the first time? Pac-12, hey, it's the last year. What's going to happen? Who's gonna be the last Pac-12 champion? Is it going to be Utah again? Which I think they'll be going for their third straight. Is Caleb Williams, arguably the best player in college football, even though I don't think so. But is he going to finally get USC back on the track, not just winning conference titles or winning 10 games a year, but actually being in the national title conversation? Will USC be back on top? Obviously, you got UCLA and USC. They're going to the Big Ten. Uh, Oregon, Bo Nix, dark horse candidate for the Heisman again this year. Honestly, he might not even be a dark horse anymore. He's just a horse that's running his way to the Heisman. So, will Bo Nix get that conference title for Oregon before they depart for the Big Ten? What about a sleeper like Washington State, Oregon State with DJ Ukulele? So I'm excited about the Pac-12 and what it's going to be. Also excited to see what the conference does. Are they going to stay the Pac-12? Are they going to merge with someone else? What does that look like? And then obviously the Big 12. There are two big guns. Texas and Oklahoma are going to be departing to the SEC next year. So, are they going to just call it quits? Are they going to really be fighting to get that Big 12 title? Or teams like Oklahoma State, or Texas Tech going to say, no, 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 we're not allowing you to win that conference title on our watch. What about some of the newcomers, like University of Houston? I think BYU's in the Big 12 now. What are they going to do? Is Baylor going to bounce back from their loss to Texas State? Speaking of transfer portal NIL, a team like Texas State, and they got 50 players in the transfer portal, blew out Baylor. So, I'm really interested to see this college football season, man. And we're definitely going to be covering throughout the college football season some of the highlights from each weekend, and kind of getting you prepared for the next one. And so, speaking of which, you guys can expect an episode on Friday where we're going to be previewing the weekend. So both a little bit of college, some of my games to look forward to, as well as the NFL. We got to talk about God's chosen franchise, the New Orleans Saints, but also some other teams that I'm looking forward to seeing. I might do a little recap of the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Detroit Lions that's happening Thursday night. But I think we all agree that Patrick Mahomes is not losing the first game. Maybe we all can, unless you live in Detroit. But we're looking forward to a great football season. Shout out to Team USA. Got a big dub versus Italy, moving on to the semifinals in the FIBA World Cup. And so hopefully they can bring that gold home, get us in good standing for the Olympics. So when we bust everybody's ass next year, it's not a fucking surprise. Anyways, so as I end this show, as I always do, if I said anything that offended anyone, that's a good thing. It's an opportunity for me to learn, and it's an opportunity for you to teach me. All I ask is that you keep it respectful. Peace.